Right, so everybody just take their seats. We're going to have a lecture today talking about AC separation, and it's Dr. Kendra Hall, as you can see here. So to start off, we're going to throw on a bit of a clip from YouTube, so you can just get an idea of how something like an AC separation can happen. Alright, so that was pretty graphic. So to start off, anyone explain to me the different grades of shoulder separation? Hands up, anyone? Remember, this is a safe place.
The different types represent how much damage has been done to the ligaments.
Okay, yeah, very, very good. Yeah. Do you know how many grades there are? Yes.
The grades go from 1 to 6, with 1 being the least severe and 6 being a complete tear in the ligament.
Does anyone know how an AC separation happens? Yes.
It can happen when someone falls onto an outstretched arm, or it could happen when they get hit or tackled in rugby or football.
Seems like you guys have read your chapters, which is good. Now, to give you a more in-depth look at shoulder separation and why it's so common and how to prevent it, we have a guest speaker today. It's Dr. Kendra Hall. So if you could all put your laptops away and show some respect, that'd be great. And why don't you all just welcome Dr. Kendra Hall.
Thanks for having me here, Dr. Khan. Like he said, my name is Dr. Kendra Hall. I've done a lot of my research in AC separations, and that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. Just a few things I want you guys to take from this lecture is that I want you guys to be able to demonstrate some of the exercises that can lead to the prevention of AC separations. I want you to be able to explain why the AC joint is so easily separated. And I want you to be able to describe some other methods that can actually lead to the prevention of AC separation. I just want to look at a case study that was done by Michael Stewart and Ainsley Smith in 1995. It followed junior A hockey players throughout 3 years and just looked at the injuries that they endured. So some background information on the case. The study looked at players and when they were injured in terms of game or practice and when they were injured. So beginning of the game, end of the game, beginning of the season, end of the season. Basically, to eliminate variation, they had a very strict definition of injury, and they had a physician looking at all the injuries, the same physician to eliminate the variation. So basically it was found that an AC injury was the second most common injury in hockey. So the results were that you're 25 times more likely to endure an injury in a game as opposed to a practice. And the majority of these actually happened in the third period. Injuries that occurred in practice happened in the first part of the season as opposed to later on in the season. And they were usually strain. So practice injuries, usually the reason they occurred in the first part of the season as opposed to later is because a lot of the athletes were going into their season with too much effort, and they were having injuries that occurred due to excess working out or having like a decreased flexibility after off season. Both these factors contribute to why most injuries occur in the first part of the season as opposed to later. In games, when I said it was usually occurring at the end of the game, this was because the players tended to be tired, and so they were experiencing some muscle fatigue, which made them more susceptible to the injuries. And many times in the last portion of a game, players tend to be more aggressive because they're trying to secure a win. So in this case, sometimes they're more rough, and that can lead to more collisions, which we know leads to an AC separation. So just a little bit of information about the AC joint is that it's very vulnerable because it's just a bony protuberance that's open for any force to come and act on it. The location of the joint doesn't have much protection. Ligaments can tear very easily just because of the susceptibility of it. Just going to go into prevention and what we can do to decrease the amount of AC separations that are occurring. So in this study, it just basically talked about some strengthening, conditioning things that could be done in order to prevent the injury. So I'm going to get your prof to come up here, Dr. Carr, you come up here and do some demonstrations for us. And we're going to get the class involved too, so we're going to have everyone stand up.
Stand up. Safe place.
Alright, so okay, there's 2 strengthening exercises that we want you guys to do. So the first one, they're called dumbbell flies. So basically these would be done laying on your back, but obviously we're not going to get you to lay on your back, so just pretend. So you're going to basically abduct your arms up to your shoulder height. Yeah, perfect. And basically you're going to bring them forwards in front of your chest and back, tightening your scapula, compressing it together. All right? So that one works on your anterior deltoid, which is one of the muscles that can prevent AC separation. The second exercise is shoulder shrugs. So basically, you're going to start with your arms at your side, just like you have them. And usually this is done with dumbbells or something like that, so pretend you have some heavy weights there. Some pieces of chalk, that would work well. Alright, so we're going to just basically elevate your shoulders and depress them. Perfect. And back down. Yeah, so you're going to do a couple reps of those, and that would help with your trapezius muscle. And so those are the 2 strengthening exercises that would help with AC separations. So another thing we can do is increase our range of motion and our flexibility. So one of the exercises we could do for those is called heavy hinges. So basically you're going to have your arms at your side, and you're going to elevate them backwards with your palms facing up.
Right.
But when they're going up, yeah. So you're going to go as far as you can, and then you're going to hold it.
Very flexible.
Yeah, not very flexible. It's not a good example. So you're gonna hold it and then release, and you're gonna do a couple of those, and that should help you with your flexibility. Perfect.
That's quite good.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so then moving on to another option for prevention would be stricter rules for tackling or hitting. So you can go sit down because I'm in the gym. All right. There was a study done by McIntosh and colleagues which looked at how tackling an opponent actually plays into the injury that they receive. So basically it was found that as players advanced through the levels of play, so as they went from like Little League to higher levels, they actually had tackles that were faster, had a more effective direction, so they were more aimed at the opponent, and also that it targeted the shoulder of the opponent. So all of these things were factors for injury, especially on the AC separation, the AC joint. So basically if we look at changing the rules, we could try to see if we could prevent injury that way. They were also talking about how padding would play into this. So if they had more protection on their shoulders, or they had protection that dispersed the hit, that would actually work into prevention as well. I guess you guys have learned that the AC is a common site for injury, especially in high impact sports like hockey, football, rugby, that kind of thing. There are prevention methods, but of course they're not foolproof. And one of the limitations that have actually been found in AC separations is that there's not really that much information on prevention. There's not very many studies done. So actually what I'm working on right now is developing a randomized controlled trial that looks into how to prevent injuries. So thanks for having me here.
Right. Right. Thank you, Kendra. That was fantastic. So we're going to take a minute to go around the room and see what you guys learned from this lecture. Going to put the learning objectives from the beginning of class to see if you guys can answer them.
Well, to answer the second question there, the AC joint is very easily injured because it is very out in the open. There's not many ligaments around there protecting it. And when it gets hit by a lot of force, it is very easily separated.
Alright, good. Yes?
And I guess, like you said, if there were stricter rules in place then about contact, then maybe there would be less injuries that would be occurring.
Right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. It's like you've pretty much got the general gist. Well, seeing as we want to get out 45 minutes early, we'll see you next day. All right, cheers. See you there.